Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Context. We have a great show today. I'm here with my co-founder, Darren Shepard. Darren,
Hello.
I noticed you're not in a laundry room anymore. Congratulations! Is
Yeah.
this a material life change that's happened for you?
No, I'm just in. I got kicked out of the laundry room, and trying to set up an office. It's just mess all around me right now. But
I don't think anyone's ever been kicked out of a laundry room. Usually, you're kicked into a laundry room, like you're demoted to a laundry room. You actually got.
yeah, my wife
You were demoted to an office from your laundry room.
And I've worked in a laundry room or a closet with no windows for the past 5 or so years, and I love it. But my wife wanted the storage, so she's like, "No, you have to move into this perfectly good room." So I'm trying to do this. There's light around me. There's a window over there. I'm trying to adjust.
How are you doing? Are you unhappy or are you happy?
It's a change.
Well, we have an awesome show today. We've got two great talks coming. I'll hit on those in just a few minutes. I did want to spend a couple seconds updating people on the Dev Summit. We are now about a month away from the London MCP Dev Summit. We've been announcing lots and lots of great talks over the last couple weeks. If you haven't checked up, we've probably got 15 talks that have been put up on the website. We have about another 20 to announce as we're kind of narrowing down some excellent talks that came in. The conference is getting pretty full. So if you haven't already booked spots, I would definitely encourage you to do it. This happened last time, and suddenly I was getting calls from everyone I know the week before, begging me for a seat. And I'm like, guys, it was open for a month. Why didn't you book anything? And now it's full. And what do you want me to do? There's only so much room in a building. So if you want to come, you better get your spots now. It will sell out, I'm sure, just like San Francisco did. And it will definitely be impossible to find extra seats at the end. With that, I will just sort of give everyone the suggestion to go back and take a look at some of the great talks we've had recently. It has been an awesome couple weeks on the context. And so if you haven't seen some of the talks we've been doing, there's been talks on OAuth, there's been talks on tool selection, there have been talks on dealing on kind of where the project is going and the latest releases. And I expect there'll be a couple more big releases coming between now and September or October. So this should be a big month in the MCP universe, and I'm looking forward to covering all that as it comes out. Our next couple talks are already scheduled. Next week, we're going to be diving into observability and tooling. I'm super excited for this. This Lutra AI Mint MCP team is coming on to talk about sort of how to extend observability, which I think will be really interesting. And then the week after that, we're going to be talking about identity in more depth. So, an argument for a new type of approach to identity. And then Darren, you wanted a slot in a couple of weeks to share something you've been working on. So this nanobot project. So I'm excited to see where that's going. With that, though, just a reminder, our talks every week are really tried to keep them pretty consistent. We try to keep these talks fast. We keep our talks to 20 minutes. And if you have questions, please put them in on YouTube or Twitch or X, and I will see them here, and we will pass them through to the speakers. I know we get lots of questions afterwards on the stream, so try to keep an eye on those if they're coming in. But if you really want to get a hold of anybody who's speaking, I know everyone is on LinkedIn and easy to find. So take a minute, find them, connect, and I'm sure they'll answer your questions one-on-one afterwards too if you're just watching the recording. With that, let's get started. All right, our first talk today is from Fred, who's joining us from Paris. He is one of the founders at Alpic, and he's going to talk to us about how to drive the efficiency up on your MCP servers as you get them into production. I'm very excited for this talk. And Fred, it's wonderful to meet you. Thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here today.
Awesome, man. Well, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you very much. So yes, indeed, thank you for joining me. We'll be talking today about running efficient MCP server in production. My name is Frederic Barthelet, but you can call me Fred, and I'm building Alpic, an all-in-one platform, MCP hosting platform. So let me start with what I mean by running MCP server, efficient MCP server in production. Just like most of you viewers know already, MCP server has become the de facto interface for a new type of persona interacting with businesses online. Just like users interact with product and services from businesses using traditional web UI, mobile applications that have been so thoughtfully designed by UX designer to improve the user experience, measuring the net promoter score or the dropout or the rage clicks that happens during navigation. Just like businesses providing REST API to be able to be integrated with third parties and distribute their product and services to other businesses with integrations made by software architects, putting a lot of effort into developer experience to make sure that their APIs are easy to integrate and fast to integrate. With this new interface available, the MCP server available, businesses have an opportunity to take a deeper look at designing the perfect agentic experience. So experience for agents, this new type of persona, and maximize task completion rate. And when I'm talking about efficiency of MCP server during this talk, I will be referring to this new North Star metric that I propose to use to measure efficiency of MCP server, which is a task completion rate, the ability for an MCP client with its model, an agent, to be to complete a task given by a user beforehand. This task completion rate, we will measure it, analyze what are the different parts of the design of the server that have impact on its efficiency, and we try to find improvement opportunity. And we will repeat this cycle as many times as necessary until we reach maximum agentic experience quality for our MCP server. So this talk is really aimed for any business that tries to use this new acquisition channel that is an MCP server to deliver services and products from their business to AI agents. Let's start by measuring. So measuring agentic experience quality is a tough task. Task completion rate is actually not really feasible in production, and for two main reasons. First one is that as an MCP server developer, you don't have a full picture of all the various components taking place in a task being completed. In fact, as an MCP server, you only can observe what is coming into your server. You don't have any observability firsthand about what is the actual conversation that the user is having with the agent. And the agent is composed of the application and the model, and all those various components are not part of what you can access to. So as an MCP server, you get tool requests, you get resource requests, you get prompt requests, but you don't have the context of the conversation from which those tool requests initially originated from. So it's quite hard to measure the task completion rate. In addition, there is another problem on measuring agentic experience quality, which is the impact of the application and the model. Tool selection accuracy varies greatly from one model to another. Here I put a small extract from the Barthelet function calling leaderboard, which is an official leaderboard ranking models based on various benchmarks for tool selection accuracy. And you can see that we go from 16% to 78%. So there is wide the disparity among the model that could be using your MCP server. So if you measure a task completion rate at some point, you may actually have a measure for a specific model that will perform 2 times better than what your user actually use, or 2 times less than what your user actually use. In addition to model having great disparity, clients also have great disparity. Depending on which client is using your server, the full spectrum of functionalities that your server is offering might not be usable if the client does not support everything that you provide. Those are the 2 main problems. Let's try to find solution to still get a measurement of agentic experience in production. And what we can do is, rather than trying to track task completion rate itself, which, as we just saw, is quite hard, rely on proxy metrics that we'll be using to get a sense, get a feel for how is this agentic experience in production. 4 of them can be used to proxy the task completion rate. 2 of them that can only be measured beforehand during software development lifecycle, not directly in production, and 2 that can actually be measured in production. During software development lifecycle, tool selection accuracy and parameter accuracy, so the ability for a model to select the correct tool for the task at hand with the correct parameter, are 2 first proxy metrics that we can measure in controlled environment. And for production, we can measure cost and latency. Cost, rather than actually speaking about dollars being burned through token consumption, will rather refer to the quantity of token that your MCP server is feeding back to the model calling the MCP server. Less is better, because the less token you actually put out for a model, the less context window you're actually eating up, and the better chances you have for the model to actually reach task completion. Latency, also here, we'll be not talking about actual millisecond performance for your server to respond, but rather the quantity of interaction that the MCP client and server must have in order to complete the task. So in a dedicated session, if a user needs to have 10 interactions with your server or 1, will greatly impact on the task completion rate. 10 successive calls to your server is a much greater chance for one of them not happening correctly or the model diverging on a path that you didn't want to. So less is also better. Let's try to measure some of those proxy metrics and get a feel for how we can impact changing the design of a tool. There are actually 3 places we can have an impact on the design of the server. First one is on the tool list interaction between the client and the server, where you actually feed the list of tools that you provide as a server with each of their description and signatures. The tool views, where the model actually wants to call one of those tools, and a notification, which is part of the tool spectrum of feature of the MCP, which is an ability for a server to notify clients that the list of tools has changed and that it should refetch the actual list of tools available. Let's try the first domain, the first actionable domain where we can have an impact on the design of the server. And there are 2 things that we can change. The first thing that we can change is the overall quantity of tools. And here what I've done is run in a controlled environment some dedicated tests on a model, which was basically a ChatGPT 4.1 back from April, I believe, the revision of April, connected with a varying number of MCP server and tools, and trying to run scenario and measuring that the correct tool has been called based on the scenario that is being run. And the only parameter that is being changed throughout this test is the overall quantity of tool available to the client and to the model, to the underlying model of the agent. And what you can see here is that increasing the quantity of tool has a logarithmic decreasing negative impact on the tool use accuracy. So very fast, as soon as you add a few tools, your tool use accuracy drops significantly. One location where you can already guess that this was an expected behavior is back in the day, but I still think they are doing it today. A cursor was limiting the quantity of tool that you can actually have on a single MCP client that you can connect to cursor to make sure that the tool selection accuracy does not drop dramatically below the 50% mark that you have here. Token quantity here, as expected, is quite linear. As soon as if you add tools with a description, the quantity of tokens that you produce will linearly increase. As for the iteration itself, apparently, on first end, does not have any impact to change the quantity of tools. We can already take a closer look at one very well-known pattern that we see out there being used to develop MCP server, which is the API wrapper one-on-one pattern, which consists of basically wrapping an existing API endpoint for dedicated business with an MCP tool. So if I have 15 endpoints, I will have 15 tools with the same signature exposed by the MCP server. The limitation of search patterns that we see a lot out there is that you have chances to dramatically increase very fast the quantity of tool exposed by the server. And as you've seen just before, increasing the number of tools has a dramatic impact on the tool selection accuracy, which dramatically decrease the task completion rate of your server. So instead of increasing the quantity of tool, another solution to adding more feature to an MCP server could be to increase the quantity of parameter in order to put more feature into a single tool. And here I run again some benchmark. So same condition as before, varying the quantity of parameter in an input tool with a dedicated task and measuring that the correct tool with the correct parameter is actually being called. And here we see that instead of having a logarithmic impact, negative impact on the selection accuracy, it's only linear as you increase the number of parameters. The token quantity consumption by the model is still the same. So the more parameter you add, the more token you will have to consume. It's quite linear as well. And this pattern of increasing the quantity of parameter is actually very well expressed or taken to a far end with the layered tool pattern that was described quite a few months ago by some folks from Block, which basically was the idea of developing servers that only had 3 tools. And those 3 tools were enough to access all the existing features of an existing business. Those 3 tools are basically discovering available services, discovering available methods on the dedicated services with their signature, and the last tool, one generic tool to make any request to any service with any parameters. And whatever the quantity of tools that you actually want to expose, exposing them using this layered tool patterns with only 3 tools kept the quantity of tool exactly the same. So we see that we have this decision to take between API wrapper, one-on-one wrapper, that is having a lot of tools, as many as your API endpoints, and a layered tool pattern where you only have 3 tools. And as always in development, it's always a matter of compromising, so getting the best of both worlds, trying to find something in between. As we see before, the tool use accuracy decreased logarithmically for the quantity of tool. So I'd suggest always to lean on the polymorphic side of things and try to, when you have a new feature arising, adding an additional parameter rather than designing a complete new tool on your server. But it's always a matter of compromising. One good example of that is one that GitHub shipped back in the day in the MCP server, packaging one tool called push files that actually called 3 different API on their CLI to be able to push those indeed files on the remote server. What's to be done here is actually to think of tools as packaged stories, like we used to develop user story in web application development, but to package agent stories, full package unit of actions inside your tools rather than wrapping your API endpoints. Second location where we can have an impact is using tools, especially on the payload returned by the MCP server back to the client. And here, something that I see a lot in MCP server design is returning JSON responses from API just as they have been provided. And indeed, if you take a closer look, for example, here is an example payload from Stripe. When you reach for a dedicated plan on your Stripe account, you can see that there is a lot of redundancy or info that are not really adding any value to the context of the consuming LLM. And reducing the quantity of information that is redundant or does not bring any additional context to the model is a really easy way to decrease dramatically the quantity of token consumption and having a positive impact, therefore, on this proximity, which is the cost, the quantity of token that is being consumed, and therefore the task completion rate. Another way to improve the agentic experience is to leverage tool error response. Unlike traditional UI, where errors are considered as dead ends most of the time, because you have no guarantee that either user will actually reach the error message to do something different, or application developer will do something on the exact error code that you throw to handle this in a dedicated way, in a different way. In agentic experience, having an agent on the other side of the line, when you respond with your server with a tool error that has meaning and that can help the server, you have 100% guarantee that the model that is behind the client in front of you is going to leverage this error to try and do something with it. So it's worth taking the time to design better error message that just an error occurred. For example, if your server requires that you call first tool A before you call tool B, and the model mistakenly call tool B, you can actually suggest in your error message to call tool A first, and because the error message is fed back to the model context window and will be used to try to call your server again. Especially if you want to do refined validation logic. For example, you have a date parameter that should be always in the future. We have seen quite a few times model being lost on the actual date that the user is requesting something, missing, for example, a year. When you say, I want to go swimming in this pool next year, please take me a ticket, you will probably have a date which is back from 2024. Having in your message the current date helps the model self-correct and try to find positive outcome, which is completing your task without requiring user intervention. The last location where we can change something on the design of our server is leveraging the tool list change notification. I would argue not to do any of tool list change notification. And why is that? Most model providers out there have a cache system in place to reduce cost. This caching system is built on cache key generation, and tools are the first layer of the key generation that is done most of the time. Key generation is made out of the system prompt, existing message, and tools that are provided by your server. If you change the list of tools, you basically invalidate cache that is being used on client side, increasing the actual cost of running your client connected to your server. So, quick sum up of what we discussed together today. Tools prefer always to design server with less tools and more parameters. Try to think of tools as full stories that package a unit of work that you can do with your application. Try to strip useless attributes from your response and leverage our message to help on completing tasks without user intervention, and do not change list of tools midway during your session. Another way to complement a good agentic pattern, in addition to tools, is to leverage resources and prompts a bit more to give back control to user and remove some undeterministic ways that the agent may behave in circumstances where the user is much better actually providing a resource on which it wants to act. If you want more information on the subject of evaluating your MCP server and improving its efficiency, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. Like I said at the beginning of the talk, I'm developing an all-in-one MCP hosting platform, which includes as well evaluation. And we provide, for example, a lot of metrics of your server in production that can give you hints, especially on those proxy metrics that I was discussing, like, for example, the quantity of token, the average output token of your tools. And you can see the evolution to see if the recent modification that you made actually has a drastic impact. For example, here I have a tool that exploded in terms of token consumption, and this is a good sign to take a closer look at the design of it to try to improve it. If you want to give yourself a go at Alpic, we actually launched today in public beta. So go to alpic.ai and give it a try yourself. If you have any remaining questions, I'm available on LinkedIn, and I give you the link to this presentation as well if you want to have it for yourself. Thank you for your attention. Any questions?
Fred, that was a fantastic presentation. I really enjoyed it. I mean, you got into a lot of topics that we've kind of touched and skirted around, but I think the advice was really good. You've been working on this kind of from two directions, obviously, on the side of building your own product to help manage and sort of run MCP servers, but also obviously someone building MCP servers yourself. What are some of the things that you're seeing? Kind of like you mentioned, elicitation is a great example. I'm just curious, are you starting to see people use that? Are you starting to use that in your own work? or you feel like it's not supported in enough clients, so you're not even willing to go there? Where are you at right now with elicitations? And would love to know sort of what you see, kind of as the next step in making CPs more consistent. I mean, I think right now the big challenge is consistency is not at the level that I think we have a lot of confidence in putting complex MCPs in front of non-human run agents.
This actually reminds me of a story that actually happened in web development a few years ago. Like the disparity that we have in model and clients is the same disparity that we had back in the days between web navigators browsing the same websites. And it took a few steps from some brave developers to actually say that they won't support Internet Explorer anymore, to try to push the whole ecosystem in the direction of harmonization. And we haven't seen that yet for MCP. It's very early, but it will converge. In the meantime, what I always try to advocate with people I help build MCP server is act for the best, design for the best, leverage all the feature at ends, so that users that actually use clients that have most features have a better experience. And this will drive industry in the correct direction, because those users will return to the same clients and will return to our MCP server. So use elicitation, use resources, use prompts, use the full specs of MCP to provide the best experience possible at end.
What are the best clients right now? Like if you're talking to an enterprise that was trying to decide what to standardize adoption on, what would you be pointing them toward?
Depends on who is using. Developer side, I'd say VS Code and Cursor are the best. Consumer side, I would push towards Goose or Claude.
Goose or Claude, yeah. Darren, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I had a question of it. When you're looking at tool responses, I wonder if you've looked at it all of like, there's actually no particular reason that tools need to respond with JSON, like actual structured data. So have you looked at like, are there any particular advantages to responding with, more just text or a different format that might be a more efficient or more performant?
One great example of this is one of the first MCP server I used to develop back in the day was the one for LinkedIn, to be able to help me craft new content on LinkedIn. And I was exposing my own posts through pure text, because I didn't needed to put that into JSON with context of dates, of metadata, just wanted the raw content of the post. So whenever you're trying to return stuff that are already mostly text, yes, skip JSON altogether, of course.
Yeah, I think it's like important for people to realize like it's like why, like one of the reasons why, we have this kind of MCP layer is because we are dealing with it's a new consumer. It's like APIs are designed to be consumed by kind of traditional computers. The web is for humans, and MCP is specifically for LLMs. So it's like, there is a reason, because I liked all your things of like, look, you don't need this duplicate information. It's like, it's not helping the LLM in any way, and it's actually making things, slower or more expensive. So it's like, optimizing for the idea that this is going to be read by the LLM. So it's like, it doesn't even have to, because like, you don't even have to return back valid JSON. You can also give it invalid JSON.
Yeah, sure.
It does it fine.
Yeah. You should be as little. You should return as little information as possible, as necessary for the LLM to be able to proceed with its jobs, and strip away everything that is not relevant for it to be able to do its job. This includes sometimes semantic information that is not necessary. And if you need to break your JSON, of course, break your JSON. It's much easier to do a JSON stringify. I wouldn't recommend to break JSON intentionally, but it's not a big deal. And I've seen a lot of instances, like the one I was referencing a bit earlier for LinkedIn content, for example, that returning straight away the text content of the resources that you're giving info to the model is mostly sufficient.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Fred, thank you so much for a really well thought through presentation. Super informative. Excellent job.
Thank you.
With that, I want to move over to our next talk, which is going to be about orchestration. And I'm very excited today to be joined by Jonah, who is one of the principal engineers at Gentoro, and Hakki, who is, Hakki is the principal engineer. Jonah is the head of product development. So guys, welcome. Jonah, you're joining us. I guess you just moved to San Francisco. Hakki, you're in Taiwan, you said, in Taipei. So thanks for staying up late, I'm assuming, your time. Like, what is it, 2 in the morning?
1:30 a.m.
1:30 in the morning?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, Jonah, your slides up so I can put them on the stage?
Yep, just give me 1 second. Here we go. Can everyone see my screen?
We can. All right, well, take it away, buddy.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thanks for having us. Also wanted to congratulate Fred and the Alpic team. I saw that they just announced a pre-seed funding round. So really congratulations on that. And also thank you for the great presentation. So today we're going to introduce a real MCP use case. We called it automating actions for Slack interactions to get some alliteration there. And we can start with some personal introductions. So my name's Jonah. I do product development here at Gentoro. A lot of my time is spent with customers who are experimenting with MCP, but struggling to get to production. And with me today, I have Hakki. So Hakki, if you want to introduce yourself quickly and we can get into it.
Yeah, thanks, Jonah. And hello, everyone. My name is Hakki, and I'm an engineer at Gentoro. I'm also the technical project lead for this custom integration. Yeah. Over to you, Jonah.
Awesome. Hakki, that was a very humble introduction. Sorry. Hakki is actually one of the smartest engineers I know. So we're super excited to talk today about Gentoro. So just from a high level, what is Gentoro? When people ask me that, the simple answer is that Gentoro is the MCP layer for our customers. We generate composable MCP tools and servers from any API, and then secure and manage those tools at their runtime. So agents connect on one side, enterprise systems like Slack, HubSpot, and Notion connect on the other. And Gentoro provides the runtime that makes those connections reliable, secure, and production ready. So if we want to break that down a little further, we break that mission into 3 parts. So first is build. We generate and refine MCP tools directly from APIs or specs, allowing people to iterate faster and have less boilerplate. Second is security. So we give governance out of the box, authentication, role-based access control at the tool level, encryption, audit trails. And third is manage. So we have a runtime that hosts, executes, caches, and monitors all those tools at scale. MCP gives you the protocol. You give us your internal or external application, and Gentoro gives the MCP tools and the practical runtime layer that helps you get from prototype to production. And as I mentioned at the beginning, today we're going to talk about a real use case. So the customer story we're going to focus on today is one of our clients runs a B2C platform, allowing the public to book studio recording sessions with the 200 musicians that they employ on their staff. Every single one of those musicians lives in a single channel. You're probably asking, what's the purpose of that channel? It's actually a catch-all. So musicians use it for casual conversations, complaints about product bugs, recording equipment problems, and even HR issues. So in other words, it became the place for everything. That means more than 200 messages a day, spanning every topic imaginable. Real issues like the mic is broken in Studio 3, gets buried between chatter and venting, and operations had no system to triage those issues. The related context for those messages actually lived in HubSpot or Notion, which is completely separate from Slack. So that's the environment that we were tasked to fix. So just before the demo, here's a quick diagram showing you how we did so. So step 1, Slack message triggers a Lambda that's routed to the Gentoro toolbox. That toolbox in turn applies reasoning to classify the message. Is it a HR problem? Is it a product bug? Or is it a studio issue? Based on that classification, different actions can be triggered. For example, if it's a product issue, a ticket will be created in Notion, tagging in the appropriate member from the team. If it's a sales HR problem, a ticket will be created in HubSpot, also tagging in the appropriate person. Following that, a structured summary will be sent to the right Slack subchannel. And all of this is visible and configurable in the Gentoro Studio, which provides the UI for runtime management. So, in the previous world, what used to be an unstructured fire hose of complaints became structured cross-system workflows that MCP tools should act on. So you guys have, probably heard enough of me talk, and I want to pass it over now to Hakki to show you what this looks like in practice.
All right, thanks, Jonah. And let me share my screen because I need to switch some windows. Can you see my screen right now? I guess so, right?
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, yeah. Before we jump into the demo, I'd like to give you an overview of Gentoro Studio, which Jonah just mentioned about, that is built on top of Gentoro Runtime. This studio basically allows you to manage your generate MCP toolboxes, obviously, and manage them, and as well as generate and manage your tools. So for the demo purpose, of course, I already created this music integration toolbox. And we have a couple of ways that you can basically use any toolbox. We have integration for Cloud Desktop, TypeScript, or HTTP streamable MCP. And here, and obviously, for this specific use case, we needed integration for Slack to observe for the messages, incoming messages for specific channel, and take actions on creating tickets in Notion or HubSpot, or as well as basically acknowledging musicians' message and sending corresponding follow-up messages or notifying specific users. So these integrations basically done while you create the MCP toolbox. So I'm not going to go over that right now. So you can add more integrations. So we have all these different types of applications here. And let me take you through the tools right now. So the way, once you create a toolbox, basically this tools will be empty. The way we create tools, actually, you can use our built-in integration tools. Like, for instance, we have already 20 tools for Notion and 5 for HubSpot and over 100 tools for Slack. And if any of these tools are not generated, actually Gentoro is able to generate it on the fly to you. And it will basically show it to you. For instance, like, let's assume this is not an already generated tool, then Gentoro will be actually generating this tool to you and show the code. So you can also change languages. This is a little bit of previous version of Gentoro right now. So other than Groovy, right now we also support Java, and we are basically constantly adding new languages. But the cool part of this, actually, and the most powerful part of this is the generate part, obviously. So you enter your prompts and all the use cases that Jonah kind of summarizes. Like, for instance, show you the tools actually generated for this purpose. So you basically give a role play for this tool, this powerful orchestrator tool. And it's like a classification assistant for a music tech platform. And you define the responsibilities, and you can also define whatever the classified message priority levels should be, and also some categories and actions based on those categories. And all these happens, like here we also have a couple of different parts. I'm not going to go over all of them, but the bullet point basically means that the initial prompt you use to generate all these tools. And once these tools are generated, actually, Gentoro is able to pick up all the corresponding tools automatically. For instance, based on this runbook, so-called runbook, Gentoro knows that actually it needs to pull Slack reply message tool to acknowledge users, basically, and send messages to the channel to send corresponding follow-up messages to channels and create tickets in different applications, basically. And all these are done automatically. And I think this is pretty much about this. Yes. So I can quickly show you a demo. And can you see my? You cannot see my slide. Let me reshare. Excuse me. Here we go. I think you should be able to see it right now, right? Okay. Here, let's assume that this is our test account, basically, Gentoro's test account. So we use this for demo purpose. Let's assume that this is the musician channel that actually musicians keep their post their messages for classification of that tool. So let me give you a little bit. So also show you the background, what's going on in the background. I'm sorry about this. Okay. So let's assume that the musician has a problem with the client session. Let's say client didn't show up. Client did not show up in the session. Can you help me to contact him? So what happens right now is basically the Slack triggers that webhook Jonah mentioned in the Lambda, and Lambda sends message to the Gentoro runtime over MCP, and it triggers this classify Slack message tool, and I mentioned here, which is the orchestrated tool, and it basically classifies the message and take actions, corresponding actions based on the classification. And it's going to send an acknowledgement message to the user. And as you can see here, I understand there's an issue with the client not attending the session. I'm creating support ticket for this. And let's assume that this Gentoro test user is one of the stakeholders for this kind of issue. Then you need to have this is classified as a customer support assistance and prioritizes a medium priority. And the client did not attend the session. So this specific category of issue needs to create a HubSpot ticket. So we can see it from here. Excuse me, I couldn't see that. Can you see it here? Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm not logged in. Oh, yeah, here. Okay, I'm logged in here. You can see client did not attend session. So this is the corresponding Slack, musician Slack's message. And here in the background, actually, it is also giving you the reasoning behind it and what kind of actions actually it's taking, etc., etc. And I think this is pretty much about the demo. And over to you, Jonah.
Awesome. Yeah, we love to answer any questions that the audience or Shannon and team have on this use case.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great use case and it makes a lot of sense. I'm really curious about the product a bit more. Maybe you could just give us a little bit of the story of the company and the product. Is it available? Is it a SaaS? I couldn't quite tell from the demo if that's software or SaaS. Is it open source or is it available on a subscription or something? Maybe just tell us a little bit about the company, Jonah, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, we were actually kind of after opening up the floor to questions, we were going to talk a little bit about that, but I think we can kind of skip forward. So we were founded a little bit less than a year ago. We were originally a data masking company, but then when we saw MCP come out, we decided it was too good of an opportunity to pass up on. We have the early version of our product already available. So after this, I'll share a QR code for people to sign up. For personal use, it's completely free. We are working on a paid version for enterprises, so more to kind of come on that later.
Darren, did you have any questions for Hakki on just sort of what was happening there in the background?
Oh, no, not really. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it made a lot of sense. So, Hakki, when you showed those tools and integrations, are those integrations that you guys have a kind of an existing rich library of in Gentoro? Like, how rich is that library? Are those, can I just bring my own MCP servers? Are these MCP servers that the client or the user kind of brings to it? How do I bring my own integrations or create new integrations? Or do I expect you guys to create all those integrations in the catalog?
Yeah, actually, we initially we started building our own tools, and in a formal way, like do the generation. Basically, we use also Gentoro's own capabilities to generate tools. Let's say that's like reply message, as I mentioned during the demo. If it doesn't exist, so we generate it, and if it's a very common tool to be potentially used by many use cases, then we just add it to our library. But as I mentioned, if it's not, there are like a couple of ways that you can add more tools, your customized tools. And you can, it's not necessarily, for instance, like you can take a couple of cases like reply message or notify a Slack channel. You can combine these use cases, create a single tool, So that's possible at Gentoro. So to answer your question, basically we have built-in tools already. That's how actually that LLM, the powerful orchestrator LLM tool I mentioned, it is able to pick up all these tools because it's listed in our library and it knows the context of the tasks and actions and what those tools are supposed to do. So it basically pulls those tools from the library we already have, and if it's not, any of the tools necessary actually to take action doesn't exist, basically it is just guiding you to like, okay, I'm creating an empty tool, like kind of like a initial based, and then you generate it inside Gentoro. And we have other capabilities, as I said, in the studio. Once you generate, of course, these things
so like I would bring my own API effectively, like some API code, and then you would generate a tool from that API code using MCP, or?
Well, currently we support open API generations. So if you have an open API spec, and you can basically just paste it into Gentoro while you are doing the integration, and it is able to generate tools for your API use cases.
Are those tools like, so what if I have an MCP that my team's already built? Can I bring that MCP into Gentoro?
We don't do that, but yeah, we have received such requests actually for a couple of potential customers, and we are thinking to support that too. But this is a big space, and there are like, sky's the limit. You can build things for this, and we are thinking to support that too. Yeah.
Awesome. Jonah, did you want to share that link so people can find the company and find the product?
Yeah, of course. Give me 1 second. Go back to screen share. Here we go. Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have Playground that's completely free for personal use. You can also join our Slack community if you have questions, and then you can connect with us on LinkedIn as well. If the QR codes don't work, it's just Jonah Perry on LinkedIn, and happy to follow up with everyone after.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. It was great having you today on the talk. Darren, anything else before we wrap up?
No, I was wondering, like, your guys' perspective on developing MCP servers. Of like, how much do you think is going to be like, how far do you think MCP servers will go in terms of like the amount of code or the complexity of building them, or really kind of see a future where it's much more like low code or automatically generated or AI creating it? Like there's some analogies I could say of like when like mobile first came out, it's like, oh, this is going to be really difficult. So people like, there was companies that would like generate mobile sites for you, but then over time is like, oh no, like you just have to develop it all. It's like, do you guys have any like inclination or feeling of where this is going? Of like, is this going to be a huge realm of tons of new development, or it's going to be generated or low code or AI, whatever?
Yeah, I can take this, Jonah, if you don't mind. Yeah. So I like to actually, if you don't mind, can I share my screen, Shannon? Yeah, thank you very much. So I'd like to show, actually, that's a great question, Darren. Thanks for that. And I think this aligns with what we are focusing on right now. So from time to time, we focus on different parts of, Gentoro runtime and studio. And up until recently, we wanted to optimize and improve the capabilities of our so-called assistant. So what we want is, and what we envision actually in the future, I think everything is going to be like very verbal and conversational. So you don't really want to, for instance, if your code has a problem, and you don't want to like manually debug it basically, but you want some kind of guidance. For instance, like an assistant basically tells you, oh, there might be problem in this part and that part, or even automatically fixes it. There are technologies doing that, like Cursor, for instance, in the first presentation mentioned. So this is something we focus on right now. Like we want an assistant is actually capable of doing multitask at the same time. For instance, let's say this is a very comprehensive description. Then I want this description to be very like condensed. So let's say summarize the description. Description of the tool, and then this is basically started running. And let's say I wanna add a new parameter, right, for pagination. A new parameter for pagination, and let's say I don't have any tests to test this tool, right? So let's say add some tests. So as you can see, like this is running only in parallel, and basically this is where the agentic actually development also goes, right? You basically throw up a problem or whatever your request and prompt is, basically starts to work on it and give you the output later on, right? So here, for instance, yeah, it added this pagination, and also added the test, corresponding tests. But the cool part is, if you do this manually, then maybe you don't have the context of, let's say, your new parameters, etc., right? But with all these LLM power, actually you have all the context. For instance, as I said, add the new parameter for pagination, but I didn't mention that that is needed for the test, right? But it automatically grasps it, for the test cases. So it adds the pagination for the test too. So I think all these like shared contexts in the future, that should be like done via like this kind of conversational manner, So and that's actually our goal also. Like in the future, when you started managing or generating or editing tools, you basically do not need to see any code, or at least low code, So
Yeah.
that's where things are going actually.
So then it's kind of like you've designed this as like, this is effectively like this is a way to, kind of no code, low code, whatever, develop MCP servers, to what degree of like the end user, like of like, developers would use this or a business person, it's like, how far do you think it gets away from an actual technical person who would understand the code?
That is totally depends on what you want to achieve, right? I think everybody can leverage that from different contexts. Like for developers, that's a big boost up, right? Like for your development phase, actually, if you have these kind of powerful tools. I mean, in Gentoro, as engineers, we use these powerful tools like Cursor, Cloud, and everything. It's a big productivity boost. But let's say you are a product manager and you want to prototype something, and you don't have any backend knowledge, right? So how you develop that, right? You need engineers to do that. But with all these MCP capabilities and as a protocol and all these like companies working on over top of MCP protocol like Gentoro, there are a couple of others, of course. So they're trying to solve this, like ease your job, right? So you can, it doesn't matter like your title or your function. I think it's about like everybody can essentially leverage this, right? Like, so it's about like how you utilize this and what kind of problem actually you're trying to solve, right? And in the future, I think these are going to be also very big product manager boosters too, right? And usually, in the conventional way, product managers need designers, engineers to give build some MVPs or even maybe some kind of prototype, right? So, but with these tools, you will be able to, as if you're a product manager, you'll be able to do that, right? And you can easily guide it and prompt it to do changes as you wish. And I think MCP's function here is like it's a big, backend oriented definer, I would say. Maybe I'm not sure, but it gives you what is your like from protocol wise, what is your definition of actually technologies can interact with each other, right? Essentially, it's the thing, right? Your agentic applications and LLMs, it's a protocol in between them. And there are a lot of cool things that you can do. And we are, actually, we'd like to see this use case is a very simple use case, obviously. But in the future, of course, we'd like to tackle like much more complex, workflows, agentic workflows, and other kind of MCP integrations, I would say. I hope I answered your question.
Oh, no, it's good. I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, who knows? We don't kind of know where these things are going. It's like the coding tools have gotten so incredibly good that AI can pump out so much of this stuff. Of who knows how much will be kind of just kind of prompting or clicking around versus actually getting into the guts of code. So I mean, it would be interesting to see how it turns out. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. I believe everybody is going to be leveraged from this. So that's my takeaway from
Well, guys, thank you all so much for joining us today. Fred, thanks for coming on. It was awesome. Congrats as well on the funding. That's exciting for you guys.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see you in London. And Jonah, Hakki, congrats to you as well, and look forward to seeing more of the product now that it's available. So everyone have an awesome day. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we will be back again next week.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.
Derek.
Thank you. Bye.